role does inflammation play in acne? I'm Dr. Angelo Landrasina, board-certified dermatologist, and I'm doing an entire series on acne. This is the third and final video about the actual causes of acne and the pathophysiology of it. If you missed the last two parts, scroll back, and if you want to see the rest of the series where I'm going to talk about skincare measures, treatments, and how they work, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Make sure you're following along. I previously talked about the contribution of C. acnes bacteria in creating inflammation, as well as hormones in creating pore blockages. This review right here is a really good read if you want a concise roundup of the inflammation issue. It's written by some really prominent acne experts, and surprisingly, it also cites one of my papers. It's always a surprise when you're reading a paper and find yourself in the references. Some really and important key takeaways here are the type of inflammation caused. So, specifically, studies have shown that there are higher levels of a specific type of T cell called CD4 cells, as well as macrophages, and an elevation in interleukin-1 alpha. They've also found that in uninvolved skin of people with acne, meaning skin that is clear with no acne present, you can see some of these changes versus matched controls who don't have acne. These findings suggest that inflammation precedes other factors in acne formation, and that the thought of non-inflammatory acne, which is something that I haven't heard in a long time, but that used to be proposed, is a misnomer. It doesn't exist because it appears that all acne is inflammatory. They also go on to cover some of the ways in which C. acnes, aka P. acnes bacteria, adds through inflammation, through the activation of something called the NLRMP3 inflammasome. Also, how that bacteria can activate enzymes called matrix metalloproteases that break down some of the fibrous components of the skin and may play a role in acne scarring. What are some key takeaways here? Because I know that that was a lot of science speak. Firstly, the way that most people think of inflammation is kind of like a scale or a ruler where you can measure inflamed and uninflamed on a continuum. And I've always said that inflammation is really more like a web. A lot of those inflammatory mediators that I talked about before, the interleukins and other cytokines, are basically these soluble signals that tell your cells what to do. And they can create different types of inflammation, meaning that they can stimulate different kinds of blood cells. And in addition to that, some of those cytokines even have anti-inflammatory action on some parts of the immune system. Basically, when people are telling you, oh, eating this food is anti-inflammatory, using this ingredient is anti-inflammatory, that's really like not a complete description, because you need to know what kind of inflammation it's acting on, what signals and what specific cell types to know if those are going to be appropriate interventions in any sort of condition, really, but specifically for acne, you need to have the right targets. Secondly, I think that this really highlights the fact that the multiple factors that play a role in acne are usually all kind of pre-existing and coalesce into an actual disease process. This is why I've been telling people, no, you're not getting acne because you have a dirty face. You're not getting acne because you shower with the toilet seat open. It's most likely because there are predisposing factors, actual like inflammation that's ready to pop off in your skin at the first sign of a pore blockage. It is an intrinsic process, and this is why I always say acne is not your fault. What other acne questions do you have? Leave them in the comments. I think next in the series, I'm going to move on to talking about some really tried and true acne treatments and actually take you through the mechanism of how they work.